Hi, welcome to Dice Control Dojo. I'm Phil and I practice daily and share my tips so we can all get better at the casino. Today we're talking about landing. We're in our fix stage and this is going to go in sync with the air conversations on how to fix things when it's in the air, when it lands, and then what the dice do after it lands. We're in the landing part of fixing things, and we're talking about when the left and right the dice are together, but they land on an angle, either left or right side. So yesterday we were talking about missing our landing zone and what to do with it when it goes to the left or the right. I was talking mainly about when the dice are coming out and they miss the target, but they both land together, okay, like this. They're both landing together, either left or right. That's a directional thing. It may be a thumb thing. So today, what happens when you throw the dice and they're in the air and they come in and land at an angle like this and go off to the left. But we're not talking about what the after it is, but if they land and you're watching them, and not only did you miss the landing zone, say it landed straight like this and up and down, hey, that's fantastic. Happy for you. But what happens if they landed at an angle? So the points are touching, or the angle is touching. So you had a good throw, but they landed funky. That's what we're talking about today. So what is that all about? Let's talk about what that is. When you're throwing and you're missing your target, remember yesterday we were talking about when you're missing your target, left or right, but it's straight, it's maybe because you were coming over at a little bit of an angle, but it went straight. Your arm was straight. You were just not focused on that target. That landing zone went to the left or the right. What's happening though when it lands on the points? So they come together. Maybe they're beautiful. They come down, but one point lands like this, or they're separate just enough that they land point and then they're heading out somewhere else. Same with this side. What's causing that? Either that perfect throw to land at an angle, so just the point of one hits, or the point of both hits. What's causing that? Well, that's your arm coming across or going out like this. It could also be your thumb pointing out or your thumb pointing back. And that's what you need to try and correct. So if you do see them having a left or a right bounce when they land, because remember, I'm focusing strictly on my landing zone. So if I came across like this, so say as I back up and I go like this, if you see those dice, they're at an angle. That I'm exaggerating a bad throw, but that's because I'm coming across my body. So when you're in the casino, remember there are chips. This may be at a different angle, at height than you are at home. There may be people next to you. You're trying to squeeze in. You have to ensure that when you're throwing, you're lined up with the target, right? And your thumb is lined up with the target and you're throwing. But a tendency not at your table at home. Your tendency at the casino is, there's a lot of things going on here, and your dice, you may come across like this. So your arc is going like this. That'll make the dice go in the air sideways. Now I'm super exaggerating this, but I'm just saying, even if it was a millimeter off just a little bit, and that dice lands on the ground together, but like this, that's going to be chaos. That's going to be a random throw. You have to make sure they're landing together. So what causes that coming across? I think you don't see it a lot practice-wise because you're used to your table, you're doing your thing. I see it, I do it a lot more when I'm at a casino. And it's just based on whether there's chips distracting you here and here, or just your arm is somehow going at an angle. It's not staying straight. So what do we do to correct it? Obviously, get back to basics, my normal mantra, right? Focusing on, let's look at the lines and focused on what line I'm going to keep on to ensure that I'm hitting that landing zone, right? And making sure you're taking a look at your arm. Is it going straight back? Is it following the line and following through? And is your thumb pointing where you want it to be? And for some reason, like when I do my opening 5 throws, if I'm not betting on myself for the first 5 throws, you might see that and be able to correct it. So sometimes I recommend that if you're at a new table to ensure that you've got the right line, you're trying to hit the right place, and your dice are doing what you want it to do. So once you get that lock in and you've got the pattern, and then you're in your zone, your mental zone and your physical zone, you should be fine. But I do know that if you see these dice and when they land, they're either landing, they're separating a little and going this way, or they're separating and going the opposite way. When I see mine, how many times the craps crew see my dice go over into that corner, and everybody, we just hope and pray it wasn't a bad throw, a bad number. But unfortunately, if those dice land at an angle like this, now you're talking a random person at this point, and we're just hoping for some good luck there. So that's for a lefty or a righty coming across your body like this. It's kind of like a golf swing, right? You're supposed to be coming down like this. What happens if you go inside out? The ball will spin out. What happens if you go inside out? It's this way. If you go outside in, it's going to come around. It's the same thing in dice, but we're talking millimeters, right? I'm obviously over exaggerating my throws to prove a point, but if they're traveling, you're missing your target and both dice are hitting with the points down and going, or just the top one, you're not getting a flat hit. That's a bad throw. So you got to go back to basics. Make sure you're coming over on top, so you're directly over. Some of them, remember, some tables you may have to get on your toes, which is another issue, right? Because you don't practice that a lot. So that's why in our throw practice, I have the 9 spots, right? And why do I do that? The 9-spot practice is not only just to get you to figure out your targets, right? But that's so the 3 down close, you can come over the top, right? You're down and you're close. Those next ones are so you can come over a little bit. And then the third one is going way over. And I exaggerate that because when you are at a table, you don't know what that's going to look like. So your whole day may be on your toes, leaning way over here like this. And if you are not all the way over to try and hit a flat surface up here, your tendency is going to be to come across your body, right? And you're going to see this going across the body and the dice landing on their points. You never want to see that. That's why A lot of this methods of my 1 hour practice have to do with all the little things to avoid, right? And that nine spots are not only to get you to throw your normal throw, but to take you outside of your zone and then way outside of your zone so that you're not coming across like this, because that's the tendency. It's very weird for people to go this way, but it happens. You'll curve out this way, but I'm just seeing most of the time you're coming across your body, and it's typical golf swing error. So my tips for this today, if you're watching just your landing zones and you're seeing just the corners of those dice land, you're coming across your body. Get back to basics, come across, make sure you're looking straight down and you're throwing straight across. Your thumb and your fingers are releasing and pointing right at there, and you have your eye on the prize. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about what happens when we're in the landing again. What happens if they land apart? They land apart. Not once they land, they split. It's when they're landing apart, inverted or outward. The tips are talking to each other in a different way. We're going to discuss what that looks like and hopefully fix that for you tomorrow. And as always, when we're talking about betting strategies, no matter what betting strategy you use, you're going to make a lot of money if you throw for a long, long time.